Happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ecto. My name is Michelle, and I'm going to be telling you two stories tonight. One which will be from my own experiences, and I'm going to call that the Lumberjack. And then the second one is actually from a friend. It's kind of like a classic tale of a lady in white, except for it was a little girl in white. And it's something that had happened to her in Indiana. So, y'all stay tuned, and I will be back in just a minute, right after this message from Ideas.
KVLP LLC. Check us out on iHeart, Speaker, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, with the best podcasters in the business. Denise Harris, Chris Stevens, Michelle Auger, Ideas, Desiree Pickett, Anissa Nicole, Cecilia Flores, Lolita Diaz. Sponsored by TBs303.com. We are also looking for new podcasters. Inbox any of our podcasters or me, Ideas, directly on Facebook, and someone will get back with you ASAP. KVLP LLC. Check us out on iHeart, Speaker, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, with the best podcasters in the business. Denise Harris, Chris Stevens, Michelle Auger, Ideas, Desiree Pickett, Anissa Nicole, Cecilia Flores, Lolita Diaz. Sponsored by TBs303.com. We are also looking for new podcasters. Inbox any of our podcasters or me, Ideas, directly on Facebook, and someone will get back with you ASAP.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ecto. My name is Michelle Auger, and I'm going to be your host for this crazy ride. My first story is called The Lumberjack, and this happened in a time span of between like 1985 and 1988 to me. My family had just moved from Southern California to Northern California, and I was about 15 years old, and I was not happy. I mean, not happy. I was giving my mother attitude, giving everybody in the world attitude. I was not a happy camper. Well, I had met this girl from my school, and she was a few years older than me, and we became instant friends. I mean, it was just so bizarre. We had so much in common, and at the time, she was going through a rough patch, too. Her father was really ill, and they had to end up putting him in a nursing home, and it was just really hard on her family. And she was just somebody, like, instantly clicked, you know, and you have that one friend when you're younger that you're always at their house, or they're always at yours, you know. And I spent a lot of time at her house. And both of our mothers, well, my dad was on the road, so my mom was basically kind of like a single mom. Well, and of course, you know, her mom, with, you know, her father being ill, she was basically a single mom, and they both worked full time. So, I mean, I don't want to say like we had the run of the show, but I mean, we pretty much did what we wanted, you know what I mean? Because both of our parents worked all the time. We spent most of our time at her house, only because I had a little sister at mine. She was, you know, of course, the annoying little sister at the time. At her house, it was always just a little off there. You would just feel like this eerie feeling like you were being watched no matter where you went in that house. You would just almost feel like there was somebody there. You turn around and there's nobody there. And as things got worse with her family, you know, like her mom was struggling a little bit, and she started going out a little more and things like that. And her older sister was already out of the house, so there was just like a lot of stuff going on in there. So it seemed like it aggravated things, I guess you could say, the activity in the house. It was to the point like you'd be watching a movie in her house, and at the time it was VHS, and the movie would literally just stop, rewind itself, and eject out of nowhere. Which could be explained away as some kind of electrical problem or whatever, but it just got to the point there were so many things that just could not be explained away. I mean, like, you would, like, one night, I stayed the night at her house, and I had taken a shower, and I got out of the shower, and the mirror had been wiped off. Well, of course, I'm blaming her. I'm like, haha, it's so funny, and she's like, I swear to you, I did not do that. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I didn't believe her. Well, then another day, I was on my way over there, and she told me, just come on in, and that's just how we were, just walked in each other's houses. And when I got there, she's sitting in her living room, she's just freaked out, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? And she told me that she had taken a shower. When she got out, the mirror had been wiped off. And she was the only one in the house. So it just seemed like just one thing after another there. I mean, stuff would move, like, right in front of your face. You'd be sitting there and, like, something on a shelf would just fall off of it. And people were like, because it was a mobile home set up on private land. And people were like, well, maybe her mobile home shifted, or maybe the land shifted. There was always something that could be explained. Well, we started hanging out with some, I guess you could say, unsavory people, and they started, doing stuff like coming to her house, and not so much with a Ouija board, but other stuff, just like almost provoking whatever was there, like, oh, show yourself, lighting candles, just being, just stupid kids. Well, right after that had happened, her and I were in her kitchen one day, and we were baking cookies. And her back door flew open, which came into the kitchen. The back door flew open, and this guy came in, and he was wearing a Lumberjack shirt. He had blonde hair. I mean, he came in, and he looked as stunned to see us as we were him. And we all just kind of sat there and just stared at each other for, it seemed like forever, but it was probably only like 5-6 seconds. And he took off like a bat out of hell and ran into her bedroom and closed the door. As an adult now, I would, of course, leave the house and call the police. But as a child, you've got other mentality. Her and I both grabbed kitchen knives, and we're going to go get him, right? So we go there, and her bedroom door is locked. So we're like, okay, that's it. So we get stuff, and we jimmy open the door. And we get in there, and there's nobody there. We checked her room, we checked her closet, everything. The windows were locked from the inside. And there's nobody there. So, of course, I call my mother, and we're both, just freaking out. We're kids, So my mom comes up, and she goes in the house with us. And my mom always had, even though she never admitted it, she had abilities. And she kind of just came in the house, and she just looked around. She's like, grab your stuff, we're leaving now. And we're like, what's going on? She's like, no, grab your stuff. We're leaving now. And, I grabbed my stuff, and she looked at my friend. She's like, you grab your stuff, too. You're leaving with us. So we pack some things, and we leave. And as we're pulling out of the driveway, her bedroom, the curtains opened. Like somebody was, like, pulling them open to look outside. And my mom just kind of put on the brakes. She's like, don't even look up there. And we pull away. So, I'd probably say like a week after that, things calmed down in her house. I don't know if my mom did something. I don't know, what happened. But it seemed like everything was calm. Well, she had this party at her house while her mom was at work. And one of our friends was there, and he was just like, one of those naysayers, just like, bull crap, He was sitting there, oh, you girls are imagining things, because, we're kids, we're telling everybody about our experience, like it was the greatest thing in the world. And he's telling everybody, oh, they're full of crap, they're imagining, they must have been stoned, they must have been drunk, whatever. So he goes to the bathroom, and when he came out, he was just white as a ghost. And he's sweating, and we're like, dude, what were you doing in there? And he wouldn't speak. He just kept shaking his head. And finally, I grabbed him, like, what is wrong with you? He goes, I have to go. I can't be here. I can't be here. So we're like, what the hell? So he leaves, and the party, keeps going. And about 2 hours after the party was kind of winding down, there was a bunch, how it is when you throw parties as a kid, there's always stragglers just kind of hanging around. Well, one of the girls there who was just completely drunk, she was talking to somebody, like talking to the wall. And we're looking at her like, what the heck? So we go over there, we're like, who are you talking to? She goes, oh, that guy, that lumberjack, where is he? She's like, oh, he was just here. We're like, what? So, of course, we're freaking out because that's the same guy we saw, obviously, And anyways, it kept going and kept going. And like I said, for weeks it was like this. It was just weird little things happening, things moving, things tapping, cabinet. The weirdest thing was the cabinets opening. Like, you would go to sleep in her house, you would wake up, and all the cabinets would be open. It was just the most bizarre thing. Like, nothing out of place, but just every single cabinet was open. And her mom would yell at us, "Why are you girls leaving the cabinets?" And we're like, "We're not, we swear, But it happened. Well, we had seen that guy, the one that left the party, down at this it was, there was an arcade in town. And we kept trying to get him to tell us what happened. And at first he wouldn't tell us, and then finally he grabbed us by the arm, and he told her, he says, "You need to get out of the house. Your parents need to move." She's like, "What happened?" He said that he has gone to the bathroom, and her mom had this thing sitting on the back of the toilet. It was like one of those doily dolls, that covered like extra toilet paper rolls. And he had did his business, and he was washing his hands in the mirror. He seen that thing rise up in the air, and it flew right by his head and hit the mirror. So he was done, He just freaked out and left. Well, my parents had decided that they wanted to go back to Southern California, to LA. So, of course, now I'm used to this place, and I didn't want to leave. But I had to. I didn't have a choice. And a lot of things happened during that year. We talked to each other and stuff, but her personality seemed to change a little bit. Like, I would talk to her on the phone, and she would just, her personality was just off. And then she had, dyed her hair bleach blonde, and just all these weird things, But I had ended up moving back up there. And my mother, it was just this, I was a wild child. And my mother agreed to kind of allow her to be my guardian at that time. And I went up there, and I moved in with her for a little while, and then, we were there, and there was just so many things that happened in the house. It got worse. I mean, 10 times worse. And we would constantly see this guy all over the place. He would almost flash, right in front of you. He'd be there, and then he'd be gone. And it was just getting crazy. So we had another friend of ours. We actually called him Psycho, not because he was psycho, but because he claimed to be psychic. He said that he knew people, that he would bring them there. So these people came in, and they were just they said they couldn't believe the amount of activity and how things were so obvious, you know what I mean? It wasn't just just that, oh, well, maybe that was a noise, maybe it wasn't. I mean, it was just right in front of your face, here it is. Well, they started doing some research, and her family had bought that land. There was a shack on that land, just like an old, I don't know, an old outhouse or something, I don't even know. And they had it torn down to put their mobile home on that plot of land. Well, come to find out, there were 2 people that were found in that shack years before that had hung themselves, or supposedly hung themselves. And one of them was this guy Eric, who in the newspaper article, fit the description perfectly of who we were seeing. And this psychic person or medium had come in, and she was, basically telling them they had to leave and all this other stuff. And she thinks that maybe what happened to them wasn't on purpose, and he was trying to tell us something, but the police wouldn't listen to us. They were like, just whatever. Because apparently these people were on drugs or something, and they, you know how that goes, they don't care. So, especially in those days. So, she did her spiel and asked him to leave, and the activity pretty much stopped in the house. But it was just so strange that it had continued for so many years in the house. Well, probably about 2 years down the road, now this is after everybody's grown up and everything, her mom was still in that house. And by that time, her father had passed away, and her mother had started seeing somebody else. It was years. And they had a friend's daughter over. at a friend there, and she had like a little girl, and the little girl was talking to somebody outside though. So they go out there, who's your friend? And she was pointing into the woods and said that he was a lumberjack. So they're thinking that he's still around, but he just can't come on the property because that person had put up some kind of barrier to where he actually can't get back in. So it's still going on. The whole area there is just, there's some bizarre things. Car accidents happen on that road. The neighbors down the road, their car had caught on fire one night. Just things, and this is over the years that it has happened. So it's still ongoing, but the activity in her house just lasted for a few years. So it's strange, but a lot of stuff like that happens in that area because it's actually that town is at the foot of a volcano, and it's very the lake itself was formed by a volcano. So it's like there's a lot of weird things that happen in that town, anyways. So it doesn't really surprise me that things are still going on because it was a very strong entity, whatever it was. It was strong enough to where it would just make stuff just move right in front of you, and it did not care whether you saw it or not. So, anyways, I guess the story continues. I mean, it ended for their house, but at that surrounding area, the activity is still going on. So, give me just a minute, and I will be back with the second story. And this is not my story, but this is a friend who mailed me this story, and I just thought that was... it's your your classic lady in white story, except for it was a child. So, alright, I'll be back in just a few minutes. In the meantime, please enjoy this lovely commercial that I put together for everybody. It's just basically letting you know about the shows that are on and how to access some of our older shows or whatever you need. So, bear with me, and here you go. Hi everybody, thank you for listening to KBLP LLC. We have so many good shows on this station right now. I mean, just such a variety of wonderful shows. I mean, we have Lolita's Jams, who by the way has a great following. She plays mostly newer style hip-hop and underground music, stuff like that. It's a really good show. You need to check it out. We have Ideas as us. Ideas. He has his show, The Jam with Ideas, usually on Saturday night. Sometimes he throws in a random show here and there. So it's a really great thing. We also have let's see if I can do it right, the Freaks, kind of, in the basement. Freaks in the basement with our very own big freak himself, Chris Stevens, always on Friday night, always a great show. Always great skits with the Freaks. Always great music. I mean, just a good show. And we also have our podcaster, super extraordinaire, Miss Denise Harris, who just does so many shows. It's insane. I don't know how she does it, but she manages. She has a show called DWD that she usually fits it in twice a week, and it's usually a different theme every week of the different style music she plays. She has Sci-Fi Encounters of the Third Kind, which is always a great show. Great following. She talks about just the strange and odd things that go on the planet, and beyond. So, check that out if you're into ghosts, aliens, things like that. I mean, just different types of religions, different things. It's a really good show. And she has a pretty good following on that. Let's see. She also will be doing The Walking Dead show when it comes back on, and American Horror Story. She also does Hollywood Review. So many shows. She also does Planet B.O.B. with me, B.O.B. Does that show. We do Hump Day Humor together. So there is just a whole boatload of shows that you can watch, and there's more coming soon. In the fall, we'll be having the sports coming on, and we'll have so many different podcasters on there, and, mostly Cecilia Flores, but, Ideas will be on there, Denise Harris will be on there, I doubt I'll be on there because I only like 2 sports and that's about it. So, but anyways, this has just been a commercial to let you know about what's going on here. So, just come check us out any time of the day or night. And if I forgot anybody, I apologize. But yeah, come check us out anytime, day, night. Our shows are down there. Click on the KBLP LLC, scroll down. You can check out episodes of your favorite shows. You can check out the shows themselves. Listen to old shows. I mean, there's some really good stuff there. So, and also, by the way, we're on YouTube now. So, it's a great thing. You guys will love it. Hopefully, this commercial didn't annoy you too much. So, anyways, check us out. Check us out. Oh, and I also do WTF, which was really been kind of an iffy thing with a lot of people. Some people love it. Some people hate it. You'll have to check that out and decide for yourself. So, anyways, y'all enjoy whatever you're listening to right now. And hopefully, we'll see you again in the future. Have a good night. Bye.
KBLP LLC. Check us out on iHeart, Speaker, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, with the best podcasters in the business. Denise Harris, Chris Stevens, Michelle Auger, Ike Diaz, Desiree Pickett, Anissa Nicole, Cecilia Flores, Lolita Diaz. Sponsored by TBs303.com. We are also looking for new podcasters. Inbox any of our podcasters or me, Ike Diaz, directly on Facebook, and someone will get back with you ASAP.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. You're listening to Ecto with Michelle Auger on KBLP LLC. The second story that I'm about to tell you, it's not my story. It's one of my friends who messaged me the story, so I'm going to do my best to interpret what she had written. She said that she was in Indiana at the time. Her cousin had a wedding or something, and she was there. And she said they all stayed up pretty late one night, just kind of reminiscing about stuff and get, things like that. And she said that she was on her way back to her hotel room. And she said she was driving down the road, and right by this fence, she seen something white in the road. It was almost glowing, because where the lights were hitting it. And she couldn't figure out what it was, if somebody had dropped a sheet or, something fell out of a car. Well, as she got closer, she saw it was somebody sitting on the road. And she said she slowed down because, you never know what's going on with things like that. And she said the person looked up, and it was a little girl. She said it looked to be about maybe 10, 11 years old. And she said that she stopped the car and got out, but of course she was very cautious because, she didn't know somebody else was hiding somewhere. And she approached the little girl and asked her if she was okay. And the little girl looked up and said that she was lost. And she said, well, let me call the police and we'll get. And then the girl said, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And she's like, why? What's wrong? She said, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So she said she thought that was strange. And that, she said the part of her was saying, call the police anyways. But she said the part of her, she didn't want to upset this little girl. So she said, well, honey, I can't just leave you here. The little girl says, well, can you give me a ride home, please? I know my mom wants to see me. So she said, of course I can. Well, she said the front part, she couldn't get the airbag turned off, and she didn't want the little girl to be in danger, so she put her in the back seat. She could see her in the rearview mirror. And she asked her, how did you end up out here all alone this late at night? And she's all, it was an accident. My brother didn't mean to do it. And I don't even know if my mommy knows. And she's like, what are you talking about? She's all, me and my brother were wrestling around, and he opened the door, and I fell out. And she said to herself, she said she was thinking, like, I kind of think that's weird because her dress wasn't dirty or anything. So, but she didn't ask. She said, well, honey, you have to tell me where you live. And she said, well, I'm not sure where I live. And she kept, telling her, trying to get clues as to where she lives. So she pulls into this gas station, this lady does, and she's turned around, she's talking to the girl. She says, honey, I can't get you home unless you know. And she said the little girl had pointed into the gas station. She says, they know where I live. So she's like, okay, you want me to go ask them? She goes, well, you better wait. And she says, what do you mean, wait for what? What do you mean? She goes, well, wait for that guy right there. He has to leave first. And she's like, okay. So she waited for this other guy to leave, and she goes inside. She says she was reluctant to talk to these people. And she said that she looked out and she could still see the little girl in the back of the seat of the car. And she said she went and bought like a soda and things like that, brought it up to the counter. And she was kind of talking to people. She said, I know this is a weird question. She says, but I picked up this little girl down the road, and she said that the person behind the counter just turned white, just completely just white. And they looked down, and she says, oh, do you know her? Do you know where she lives and all this other stuff? And the person didn't say anything. And she's like, can you please help me? She's not sure of her address and all this other stuff. So she looks out and she can still see the little girl. The little girl's waving. And he's like, well, and he says, where is she? And he's right there in the car. He says, she looks over and the little girl's gone. She's like, oh my God. So she goes running outside and she looks in the car. She's not there. And she's looking all around and she's, she didn't even know the kid's name. She's like, little girl, where are you? And the guy comes out and he's just real quiet, but he doesn't seem panicked about anything. She's like, can you please help me find her? She obviously got out of the car and now she's alone. And the guy just looked down and she's like, what's wrong? Why aren't you helping me? This little girl could be lost, she's just out there alone. You need to help me. And he just kept looking down. So finally, I guess she just shook him and was like, you need to help me. And he finally yelled out, it's my sister. And she's like, what? And he proceeds to tell her the story of how when they were little, they were messing around in the car and he had reached over, not realizing that the door would actually fly open, and they didn't have their seatbelts on. And he had reached over and opened the door handle, and when he did, the weight that he was pushing against her, the door flew open, and she went out of the car, and she had died. And she's like, what do you mean? I don't understand. How can that be your sister? You're an adult. How is this possible? And he proceeded to tell her that she leads people to this station at least 10 to 15 times in a month, if not more. That she comes there all the time, that people pick her up and they stop there. And she's like, well, why is she doing this to you? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. So the lady goes to get back in her car and she smelled something. She's like, what does that smell? So she looks back, and it wasn't an unpleasant smell. She said it just smelled like really fresh, kind of, And she said she turned around, and there was just like a little bouquet of little blue flowers in the back seat. And then she said she looked over at the gas station, and she could see the little girl standing by the guy, but the guy couldn't see her. And she said that she stopped going that route the entire time she was there. She stopped going that route. She said that she actually drove 25 minutes out of her way to not go that route the rest of the time she was there. So, yeah, that was quite a story. I was like, oh my God, that's insane. So this little girl has been haunting her brother for years by having people take her to the gas station where he's at. Could you imagine the guilt he feels? So is that his way? Her way of making him feel guilty, or maybe she's helping him drum up business. Who knows? But yeah, so she's been hitching rides with people for a lot of years. And I meant to ask her if she asked anybody in her family. I should have asked her that, because I'm kind of curious to find out what happens if people don't pick her up. Because you always hear those stories that if you don't pick them up, bad things happen. So I don't know, that's a little bizarre, but yeah, it's just a classic tale of the lady in white, but with a little girl. A lot of there's stories all over the country of a woman in white. There's one in almost every town where where you'll see her walking down the road, and if you don't stop and talk to her or try to help her, like, you get in a car accident or something, or some places they say if you just see her, you get... But yeah, look into some of your local history and start talking to people, and I bet you'll find these stories anywhere you go, about just different legends and lores and things like that, so... But yeah, I just found that story. It gave me chills just to think that, that she still haunts her brother. Do you know what I mean? It's just strange. So, anyways, that's it for tonight's episode of Ecto. Hopefully you guys liked it. It's a little creepy. Next week, I'm working on getting one of my friends to tell me about her house right now. This is something that's going on presently to this day. So I'm going to be gathering that, and I'll be telling you about that, because she lives apparently in an extremely haunted house, and some really bad things are happening. So we're going to dive into that, and she's going to let me know her story, like when it started, all this kind of stuff. So anyways, look forward to that next week. And y'all have a very good night, and make sure you guys tune in to YouTube and look up KBLP LLC 4 on YouTube. That's our handle there. You'll be able to access all of our shows there, and on Spreaker here at any time you can. Just click on the KBLP LLC, scroll down. You can see episode shows. We have a ton of them right now, and tonight we're going to be doing Encounters of the Strange Kind with Denise Harris. So we're calling this Spooky Saturday because I'm doing Ecto, and then later she'll be doing that. So definitely look out for that, because she finds out like all the legends and lores of things, and she dives into it, and her research is just insane. So most definitely check that out. And then later on tonight, Ike Diaz will be doing the jam. And congratulations to him. He's a grandpa again, and his daughter just had their baby. So, I mean, not their baby, but her baby. But yeah, so he's a proud grandpa today, and congratulations on the beautiful baby, and y'all have a good night. And like I said, check us out on YouTube, check us out at Spreaker, and we also have a Facebook page, KBLP LLC. Go there. There'll be shows, stuff like that. And if you're a Denver Broncos fan, because I'm from Colorado, there's always stuff on there from the Denver Broncos. But anyways, you all have a wonderful night, and stay tuned later on for Miss Denise Harris and Encounters of the Strange Kind. Good night.